Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Helltides. These are events that occur in the open world for 1 hour every 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's constantly following a cycle of 1 hour up and an hour and 15 minutes down. At the time of this recording, Helltides are not currently up. However, I have pulled up a map on Google so that you can kind of see what they'll look like. They're going to be this red area. And so if you open your map and see this red area, it means that a Helltide is active. So the benefits to doing these Helltides are chests that are going to be out in the open world that are not there when a Helltide is not active. You're going to kill monsters and interact with objects out in the open world that are going to drop these cinders. You spend these cinders to open the chests. Now, all of the chests in the Helltide are valuable to some extent, but the ones that you really want to go after are the mystery chests. So let's quickly dive into some of the benefits of doing the Helltide. The first one is going to be getting forgotten souls. So if you travel to the occultist in-game, you can spend these forgotten souls, as well as fiend roses, which also come from the Helltide, to re-roll an affix on any piece of gear. Now, the next benefit to Helltides is getting obols. Doing events during the Helltides is incredibly valuable and a good use of your time. Not only will you get the cinders to open the chests, but you'll also get obols to come over here and gamble for gear. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you can also participate in the Tree of Whispers events if the Helltide happens to spawn in an area where you can do the Tree of Whispers. In that case, you can kind of be doing two things at the same time. And the final benefits of the Helltide are pretty decent XP per hour. You can get elixirs that you cannot craft that are really valuable that you're going to need in the endgame if you intend to push higher tiers on the Nightmare dungeons. And I suppose my final note of the benefits would be that this is a great place to start if you are entering a new world tier. Let's say you're going up to world tier 3. This is absolutely where you're going to start. You're going to be able to get a ton of sacred gear, and you're also going to have assistance from other players who are in the area. So if you're not quite strong enough to handle it yet, you'll have other people to help you out. The same goes for World Tier 4. When you first enter World Tier 4, anywhere from level 65 to 70, this is a wonderful place to start, although the monsters are going to be a much higher level than you. If you are not entering at the recommended level, you're still going to have assistance from other players, and you'll be able to get some of that ancestral loot. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about how you can identify the better versus the worse Helltides. I will add a disclaimer that I do think that all Helltides are generally a pretty good use of your time, but they are not created equal. So one thing you really need to know about mystery chests is that every hour, on the hour, they disappear and spawn into a new location. Now, since the Helltides last for exactly 1 hour, if a Helltide starts exactly at the top of the hour, you're only going to have the opportunity to get 2 to 3 mystery chests depending on which zone you're in. Every single zone except for Kyrgyzstan will spawn 2 active mystery chests at a time. Kyrgyzstan will have 3, so this is generally the most efficient place to do a Helltide when it's active. So this generally means that the best possible Helltide that you can get is in Kyrgyzstan, and you don't want it to start at the top of the hour because then you'll only be limited to 3 chests. So if you're going to be selective about which Helltides you choose to do, I would highly recommend going into Kyrgyzstan anytime 15 minutes past the hour or 30 minutes past the hour when it becomes active. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is Helltides.com. This is an incredibly important resource. This is going to have a timer so that you're going to know exactly when Helltides start. But not only that, this will become an active map that looks identical to the in-game map that's going to show you all the different possible spawn locations of the mystery chest. Unfortunately, because it is not active right now, I cannot show you, but what will happen is you'll see each of the mystery chest spawn locations on the map, and people are going to click on them and either upvote them or downvote them. At that point, you're going to see little green dots that are next to certain chests. These are the ones that got the most upvotes, meaning that that's probably where the chest is because other players found it and marked that location. One final note to make about this map is you'll also see orange circles scattered across the map. This is where all of the events can spawn, so just be aware of where you should kind of be traveling to make sure you hit as many events as possible. If you're interested in using this website, which I would highly recommend, I will leave a link down below in the description. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the mystery chests. So they cost 175 cinders to open, so you'll be killing enemies, you'll be getting cinders, and once you get to them, you'll have to spend 175 to open them up. Now they can drop 1 to 5 legendaries. I know that Helltides.com says that they can drop between 2 and 5, however I have personally opened 6 or 7 of them that only had 1 legendary in them. However, I will note that I've opened a substantial number of mystery chests, and the odds of getting just 1 legendary seem incredibly low. Now, on top of the legendaries, you're also going to be getting Forgotten Souls so that you can reroll your items at the Occultist, and this is where you're going to be getting those elixirs that you cannot craft. Just an example of one of the elixirs that you can get out of these chests is the Iron Skin elixir, which gives 900 armor. These elixirs give substantial benefits. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about efficiency. This is a timed event, and so you do want to be as efficient as possible so that you can get the most out of it. So you'll notice there's generally going to be a lot of interactable objects that are out in the open world, and the ones that you're going to want to hit are ones that are glowing red. If they happen to have a red glow on them, that means that they are going to drop cinders after you interact with them. Now also make sure you're hitting all of the ore deposits. Every once in a while you'll be able to get some cinders out of them, and also Forgotten Souls. They only take a second or two to interact with, and there's a ton of value to be had. Now this may be a little obvious to Diablo veterans, but when you're going through these Helltides, focus on killing large packs of enemies. Don't focus on getting certain stragglers that are just kind of on the outskirts of a pack. Once you've gone in and killed the majority of enemies inside of the pack, it's usually not worth your time to kind of chase down the enemies that are on the outside, especially if you're a melee class. Of course, if you are a ranged class and you could just shoot them down, then it's probably worth it. A rule of thumb is just don't spend too much time on one single target unless it's an important target such as a boss or an elite mob. I see a lot of players in Helltide who kind of just stay on foot and they run from pack to pack. Even if you're going to be on your mount for just a couple of seconds, it's generally worth getting on and just spamming the dash as quickly as you can. You'll typically be able to find another large pack before the dash runs out on your mount. Another thing to be very aware of is that meteors will fall out of the sky while you're doing the Helltide, and they are incredibly dangerous. They can take you out very quickly, and dying in a Helltide is definitely not something you want to do. You lose a ton of your cinders. On that note, if you are going to be using Helltides.com, I would highly recommend having a second monitor. Alt-tabbing out to check the map during a Helltide is a pretty dangerous thing to do unless you're planning on town portaling back into the city to stay safe, because those meteors will come down and wreck you while you're looking at the map. Even with a dual monitor, sometimes they start coming down and hitting me while I'm checking the map on my other screen. Now, while we're on the topic of meteors, I will note that most people who are playing with a mouse and keyboard know that the mount is pretty awkward to control, so when meteors are coming down, if you don't have good control over your mount, I would recommend getting off and just waiting for the meteor storm to end, because you can absolutely get hit while your mount is just acting awkward. And lastly, as we had kind of mentioned earlier, you'll want to make sure that you're hitting the events that you see. If there is a Legion event in the area, that's absolutely a great use of your time. Make sure to go there. Try to get there when it's just starting. You don't want to go there and just kind of sit there for 5 minutes, because again, this is a timed event. You don't want to be wasting all of your time in the Helltide just waiting on an event to start. But the Legion events during a Helltide are absolutely a good use of your time. You'll get a ton of cinders from them, and of course 3 chests at the end. And my final note while we're on the topic of efficiency would be to ignore the bosses that you see out in the world. They're kind of like these mini world bosses, I guess you could say, that are only there during the Helltide. They have a ton of health, and they're not really quite the same loot pinata that open world bosses are. Relative to the amount of time they take to kill, you get a very small number of cinders and loot, so I would generally just recommend moving on and staying focused on large packs. And before we wrap up here, I am not 100% sure that this still works. It kind of sounds like it wasn't necessarily intended, but I do know at one point in time, and this may still be the case, you can farm cinders on World Tier 3. As long as you beat the Capstone dungeon in World Tier 3 and you can go to World Tier 4, you can carry your cinders over from World Tier 3 into World Tier 4 and then go open the mystery chest there so you can get ancestral loot. If this still happens to work, somebody drop a comment down below and let me know. I have not tested it out, but about a week ago, I know it worked for sure. And of course, if it still works, make sure to take advantage of it, because I don't think that this was intended. If you're interested in more content, make sure to check out my video where I talked about the Sorcerer as a class earlier this week, and if it may be the weakest class in the game. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. Let me know if you have any other tips and tricks for Helltides that were not mentioned in this video. As always, I genuinely appreciate you all for watching. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.